It certainly is.
So I had a question, like, so you know, like how golf, like the PGA started doing like the live, you know, like they have people leaving the PGA because this big money organization came in and is paying the best golfers. Could something like that ever happen to the UFC, do you feel like?
That's an interesting question. They've tried to do that before. Affliction came along before, and they got Fedor, and they got Tim Sylvia, and Andrei Arlovsky. There was a lot of like big name fighters that went over to Affliction and fought for them, but they went under after a few events. It's hard doing something like the UFC. First of all, the UFC is so firmly established. It would be like trying to create a new NBA. It's like maybe you could do it, but you need a lot of money. Fortunately for this live golf thing, it's run by the Saudis, and they obviously have insane amounts of money. But even so, people have passed on it because they don't want to be associated with the Saudis.
But do you think, like, if they start to see that template work, and we don't really know if it's going to work yet, I mean, they're just, you know, it's just started.
It really depends on how much money they throw at them and how long they continue to do it for. They have so much money. They have so much money.
We can't even imagine it, huh?
I don't think we can imagine it.
Wow.
Because you're talking about trillions of dollars. You're talking about oil money. I think they could just keep that ball rolling. If they decide to do that, they may be able to have like a real rival. But right now, this is the first year. Is that correct, Jamie? You're a golf guy.
The first year, second event has been completed. Third, there's going to be 8 events. They got, I guess that'd be 6 more left.
And what does the vibe feel like out there as somebody who pays attention to golf and stuff? Does it feel like it's
they don't have a TV deal, so it's all being broadcast differently. And I would guess that this is a play to get a TV deal. There are still people. They just got a big announcer that went over from, I think, NBC. He's been a long time, 25-year-plus guy.
Who's that?
His name's David Faraday. He's got a really well-known voice for
golf.
For golf, yeah.
Now, is there a stigma attached to this? Are these guys getting
Yeah, there is
outcast
for sure, but they don't seem to mind that much
because the money's so great.
Because the money is really great, and they don't have to play golf every week like they had to.
Oh, so with the PGA,
yeah,
right. And like, who's the one guy? It was Phil Mickelson? Is that his name?
The biggest one getting roasted for it, I guess.
Yeah. And apparently he's not playing good.
That's the other interesting thing is, they're getting prepaid money, so they don't. It's not performance based. There is performance based money that can come if they win. There's more money to win in a tournament, but
so there's less incentive. You think
they have like I read a 4.5-year contract right now is what most of these guys have, varying levels of money, 6 figures for some of them.
Only 6 figures.
I'm sorry. On top of another.
It's
zero.
okay,
so
man. I'm nervous too.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions
for some people, yeah.
So for them, they feel like, fuck, this is my ticket out. I could retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fuck it. Fuck all the stigma. Yeah.
And the argument against it is really that they're not going to be playing traditionally what everyone's been playing for over their careers of like,
big tournaments that everybody's accustomed to.
Correct.
But they don't have a TV deal right now.
Right. It's just on YouTube and their website.
But man, YouTube is so big.
Yeah, but for golf, though, I feel like a lot of people, there's something about, I feel like I see my stepdad watches it on TV, you know, it's a Sunday afternoon.
It's a TV thing.
There's a tradition about that I feel like is really baked into golf.
Maybe. I don't know enough about golf.
Yeah, me neither.
But to answer your question, yeah, somebody could come along and do something like that. It's possible. You'd have to throw a lot of money. And you'd
have to get guys that are out of their contract, right?
Yeah. You'd have to get guys that are out of their contract or get guys that are on the come up, you know, that like right about to break into the UFC and get them before they, you know, because there's a lot of like really talented guys that are coming up.
Yeah.
There's a company called ONE FC that is based out of Asia, and they put on some killer fucking shows. And I watched some of their fighters and some of their fights, and man, these guys are world-class killers. They're really good. They easily could be fighting in the UFC, many of them. And then many UFC guys like Mighty Mouse and Eddie Alvarez, quite a few guys have gone over there, and they're competing now in ONE FC. So that's like a viable alternative for some people who don't want to compete in the UFC anymore, or maybe they have a more lucrative deal for ONE FC. But it's not in the public zeitgeist the way UFC is. Like
No.
you tell people like, "Oh, I was watching ONE FC." They're like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah, they think something's wrong with you.
Right, but you say UFC, it's like Q-tips. You know, it's like everybody knows what that means.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's NBA. Everybody knows the NBA. Everybody knows the NFL.
yeah.
Everybody knows the UFC.
The brand is just, I mean,
Yeah.
the brand is strong. I mean, I think the UFC the fact that it performed, it showed up every few weeks during the pandemic was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That
Well-
brought I feel like it had to bring so many fans. That's when I became like, oh, this is my favorite sport. I didn't realize it, but after like a certain month, I was like, oh, wow, this is my favorite sport.
Well, once they started doing those events when everything else was shut down, it opened up a lot of people's eyes to like what could be possible. And so then the NBA started doing events, and all these other sports organizations started doing events with no audience.
Yeah.
You know, didn't they have baseball games with no audience?
Yeah. I think the Dodgers won the World Series with no audience.
But remember, they had like Brody was in the stands. They had fake cutouts of people in the
Right,
seats.
right.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Just
Yeah.
have empty seats, man. Don't lie to me when
Yeah.
I know you're lying to me.
You've worked so long at UFC. Do you feel like that? And I've watched your pace over there. I remember when I did a show with you in Atlanta, and then we did a show the night before. Then I was sitting behind you, and so like you guys are commentating, and then you go right up into the ring, and you come right back down, and you commentate again. I mean, it was like watching it just seemed like a lot. Like this is a lot, you know. Like you have to have a real pace for it.
It's
know?
a real job.
Yeah.
You have to have energy for sure.
It blew my mind.
Yeah, it's like, and you're doing it for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Like I sit down for 6 hours and I try not to pee.